to strap in and get ready.
The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Matrix, and Whisperer.
Yes, g'day guys, and welcome back to the Insight NRL Show. I am the Supercoach Brain, and I'm on deck tonight, Wednesday night, to answer the Insight Unlimited member Q&A questions. We do them every single week for all of our Insight Unlimited members, and if you would like to become an Insight Unlimited member, it only costs you $25 for the full year. So you get a full 365 days, and you get access to us, all of our expert insights, all the numbers that we crack behind the scenes, and not just NRL, but AFL, NBA, NBL, and BBL, and some very exciting news coming soon about another fantasy sport joining the crew at Insight Fantasy Sports. So plenty happening. All you need to do is hop in my DMs and I'll point you in the right direction, or you can join our free Discord to become an Insight Unlimited member today. And of course, before I crack on and start answering these questions, we would really appreciate it if you did hit that subscribe button just underneath there. And also hit the like button so that we can reach more people. We would really appreciate that. And if you are an audio person, whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple or Google or wherever it is you get your podcast, we would love it if you hit that follow button and left us a 5-star review if you like the content. Now, of course, we've got a lot of questions. Last round 9's question or Q&A podcast was actually quite a short one. I have a feeling this one's going to be a little bit longer. The guys have put in some cracker questions here that are going to be helping not just these guys, but definitely everyone, because a lot of us are in the same situation this week. So let's crack on. Let's get stuck into things. Shorty asked the first one. Captaincy's a pretty tough... I guess a tough question this week, isn't it? Like we've got a lot of options in terms of captaincy. First of all, I'll talk about VC Loop options, or the way that I'm steering this week, and then I'll talk about my captain. But first of all, I think the first game of the round, which is at Suncorp in Brisbane, has minimal rain. So this weekend we're going to see a fair bit of rain across, especially in the Sydney games specifically. There is a game in Tamworth as well this weekend between the Tigers and the Knights, and I think there's a little bit of rain scheduled there too. But for the most part, Brisbane first game Thursday night, Dolphins and Manly. I'm going to be looking for a VC in this matchup because I think there's like 1 to 2 mil max rain predicted. So I'm looking at your Turbos and your Garricks specifically. I'm a turbo trader, I should say. So I will be definitely, I guess, looking at Garrick in this one. I think Manly could probably put a score on, to be honest, against the Dolphins. If you like to get a bit spicy and you got Fuller last week, Manly concede the most Supercoach points to fullbacks. So, that's an option for your VC as well. I probably wouldn't recommend going a straight C on a Thursday night specifically. Something about a captaincy on a Thursday night just never works out well. But, there's a fair bit of rain on Friday night, Panthers Bulldogs. I know everybody's going to be tempted at Cleary, but I also like Nicho Hynes as a captain option, and you can't choose both, obviously. So I'm probably going to side with Nicho if I have to choose between those two. So we have to let Cleary pass. Broncos and Parramatta could also be a game where there's a fair amount of points scored, but it is going to be wet. It's at CommBank, up to 30 mils of rain scheduled for this one too. So I'm looking at Reece Walsh in this matchup. I think without Adam Reynolds, he's going to be taking a lot of first receiver. He's going to be getting a lot of the ball in his hands. And we know it probably goes both ways with Reece Walsh. He probably overdoes it a fair bit and overplays his hand, but he also does some absolutely magical stuff. And depending on the type of game, and Parramatta are definitely known to leak points and Supercoach points as well to that point. So I'm on Reece Walsh's VC this week. That's what I'm looking at. He's going to kick goals now with Reynolds out. He's going to do a lot more kicking in play, which means there is a chance he probably picks up some try assists off kicks if they can get some good field position. And Parramatta, without Moses, without Gutherson, have really been struggling to get the right field position and really get those repeat sets happening. So I'm backing the Broncos to win this one. And I also think Reece Walsh is going to play pretty big for VC. Now, what I would be looking at for captain, there's an interesting stat on the Sharks versus Melbourne. So the Sharks have to travel down to Melbourne for Amy Park. They but have not conceded more than 50 points to a halfback, Melbourne Storm, all season. I have a feeling that Saturday night, that's going to change. So Saturday 7:30, there is very minimal, if any, rain scheduled for Melbourne Saturday night. which is great, definitely for Nico. But also, if you've got your Harry Grants, your Munsters, and those guys, I think it's great in general to look for the dry game this week. So your Thursday night and your Saturday night games are probably the only two dry games this week. Nico Hines, prime captaincy option, I think, for obvious reasons. Now, the other game that I'm looking at is the Titans versus the Cowboys on Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. That could be large. There could be some points scored in this one. We know that the Gold Coast Titans are scoring well, but they're also conceding a fuckload of points. And Scotty Drinkwater scored 144 against the Titans when he played them about a month ago. So Scotty Drinkwater is probably my pick for captain this week. Val Holmes, if you've got him, if you don't have Drinkwater but want a piece of that pie, Val Holmes could be a decent captain option with the goal kicking as well in this one. But that's my preference for captaincy this week. Shorty also asked, with SJ leaking cash, with tough matchups ahead, is there a world where you would trade SJ to Brad Schneider and use him when Cleary's in Origin, banking 400k and points for a later date? Now, very interesting question. I know that there were people that did this with Sean O'Sullivan a couple of years ago from memory when Cleary was out through Origin. And that worked out okay because Sean O'Sullivan played some really good football back then, and Brad Schneider's playing some really good football right now. But I'm not sure I love it. It's just in halfback, and also you're kind of gambling on the fact that Cleary is just not going to back up in any of these Origin games, which it's a chance. It's definitely a chance that Cleary might not back up in any of these, and he might miss 6 of the next 10 weeks of football, or 6 of the next 11, which definitely is not ideal. But what if he doesn't? What if he's starting to feel good? What if he gets through all of his recovery at post-Origin? And what if he backs up in all 3 of these games, or at least 2 of them, right? Then you've got Schneider basically sitting there for 5-6 weeks doing nothing for you, not making any cash at all. And then obviously you're not getting Cleary's points there too, or SJ's points. I understand that SJ to Cleary probably isn't the trade people want to make. But I have a feeling that, if you have SJ, maybe you're stuck with him. Maybe the best move is just to hold on SJ, regardless of how tough his draw is coming up. We know that SJ can still pile on points against the best teams in the competition. So I think if you've ridden him up until this point and you don't want to move to Cleary because of the resting risk, and I know there's a few questions on this a little bit later, I think maybe you just hold strong with SJ, or maybe Sam Walker's another option if you don't. I'm still a little bit on the fence with Sam Walker. He's probably my pick out of the halfbacks, but yeah, it's pretty grim picking at the moment with Jerome Hughes going down injured is definitely another guy that hurts. So, to answer your question, Shorty, I'd probably just hold strong with SJ. I don't think I'd go to Schneider personally. Troz is asking, should I skip Isaako altogether now that Herbie is back? And now that he's gone up 100k, have we missed out? Is there any, and also second part to the question, is there any issue moving early on Suafar Longo? Now, I'll start off with Isaako first. Should we skip Isaako altogether now that Herbie's back? From what I can see, Herbie Farnworth will be on the left, at left centre, because he'll be replacing Tessie New. So Tessie New's hadn't gone down injured, so Herbie's obviously come in at the perfect time, and he's going to replace him. I don't know why they would take Avarillo from the right and move him to the left just because Herbie stayed on the right. Because they, at the start of the season, they came out and said they wanted this combo. They wanted the Farnworth, Isaako, right centre and wing combo. And they were doing really well in the preseason. Now that hurts Isaako. So if we do find that Herbie Farnworth is on the right, and the good thing is the Dolphins play Thursday night, so we're going to see this straight away, probably in warm-ups and things like that, pre-coverage. So if you see that and you see that Herbie's on the right-hand side, I'd definitely bail on Isaako. But if Herbie's on the left, I think Isaako is a really good play. He's got a negative break-even. He's still going to make mass cash. He covers rounds 13, 16, and 19. Obviously, he misses 14 and 18, so just be wary of that. But I think for the most part, Isaako is a pretty good buy at the moment, regardless. But yeah, I think Herbie's going to be on the left and Avarillo stays on the right, which is great. Great for Isaako. Sloan Ranger, what are your thoughts on Dallin Watene-Zelezniak to Dom Young? Bank 65k from that trade, then DWZ will potentially lose 50k and Young gains 50k. So it ends up being a 165k move in the end. I really like it. I think you'll probably see a theme from my answers tonight, and there's a couple of players that feature. One of them's Dom Young. I'm a big fan of the Dom Young trade this week. If I could make it work for myself, which I'm still trying to kind of move a few things around, I probably would make this move this week. So I do like Dom Young. Yeah, for most players, I'd be looking to get Dom Young because the Roosters have a really nice draw coming up. They cover 2 of the 3 major buys. They do miss round 14, which kind of sucks. So just be wary of how many round 14 buy players you have. But yeah, I kind of like it. So I'd definitely be doing DWZ to Dom Young. Matty Granger. Oh, actually, did we? I forgot the question from Troz saying any issues moving early on Suafar Longo. So we'll come back to that. Yes, purely because he didn't finish the game last week. So Suafar Longo went off with a knee issue. I think he had that knee issue leading into halftime, and then he tried to come back at halftime, and he obviously was back at fullback and came off after 10 minutes and didn't finish the game. So there is a concern there that he does have that knee issue moving forward. There is every chance potentially that if he's not good to go, he might get replaced and he might not even end up in the team this week. So there's a risk. And because the Storm play Saturday night, you're not really going to get enough of a look, or you're not going to have many games left to be able to adjust your trades. So just be wary of that. The safe play is to kind of just wait on Suafar Longo. I don't see the point in going early on him. Yes, he will score points, and yes, he is a stud. He's a fucking awesome player, and really excited to hopefully see him get an extended run in this team. But the injury, and plus the fact that he's not basement price. If he was 204K or 250 or something like that, I'd be more than happy to go early, but he's 339K. So it's a bit of an awkward price to go early on. So I think you just have to hold fire on this one and just readjust next week. Sloan Rangers ask, we already covered that. Matty Granger with the next one. Should I keep Smithies and Strange all season as they have good buy coverage and won't be AE nightmares? Means upgrading Chan instead of Smithies this week. Okay. To answer the first part of the question, should I keep Smithies and Strange all season? The answer is no. I mean, Ethan Strange was great at the start of the season, but if Jamal Fogarty was in this team, leading the team around, I would probably be more on board with keeping Ethan Strange because it freed up his running game. But now, obviously, KO Weeks, definitely not the standard of player that Jamal Fogarty is. No offense to KO Weeks at all, but yeah, I think Strange to Weeks next week could actually be a decent play. I would potentially hold Smithies. I think he's okay. Like I said on the podcast the other night, on Tuesday night, there's not really any reason to move Smithies on unless you're getting a real prime upgrade from that move. Purely because I think Smithies averages, 50 odd, early 50s. He covers 13 and 16 in those major buys, so that's a really good start to the major buys. You know, you've got those 2 covered with the Raiders players. You can plug and play him when you need him. If you're short on numbers or whatever it be, he's good for a 50, and the minutes are still there. If anything changes, sure, we readjust. But I think at the moment, Smithies is looking pretty solid. So I wouldn't probably trade Smithies, but I think it's time for Strange to move on. And if that means upgrading Chan to Smithies instead of Smithies next week, I'm all for that because I think Joe Chan probably is topped out. Obviously, it only takes one score at Chan's price to really get that kind of cash going. But I think I'd be trading Chan out before Smithies for sure. Now, the next one from Bray, 888. With Jerome Hughes out for 2 to 3 weeks, who do I bring in? Do I get Cleary this close to Origin and the obvious restings, or is there someone else, or should I just hold Hughes? I think I probably covered some of my thoughts with this for Shorty's question on SJ and Cleary and all that kind of stuff, but it's a bit of a tricky one, this one, isn't it? Because Jerome Hughes, 3 weeks is an awkward layoff. It's a prime position. It's such a good position. I don't think you get Cleary. I don't like really getting Cleary, but I mean, it just depends on how many trades you have as well. Like if you've got 25 or less trades for the season, maybe you just cop the fact that you're going to buy Cleary. He's going to have some rests, but you've got your Nico Hines, Nathan Cleary halfback combo locked in for the run home, and you're fine. You don't have to waste another trade at at halfback. So I reckon you could be fine. But if you do have some trades up your sleeve and you're happy to kind of maximize the amount of points you're going to get at halfback over the next 3 months, I'd be probably looking at Sam Walker if anybody. We know DCE is going to be playing Origin, so he's going to be limited there too. Sam Walker definitely won't be. He's got the goal kicking. Roosters have a killer draw as well. Just as long as you don't overload on too many Roosters players, I think they can see you unstuck in round 14. But to answer your question, I don't think you would get Cleary unless you are really, really skint on trades or you have no boosts or whatever, and you just want to lock and load the best halfback combo. Otherwise, I'd probably be looking at Sam Walker. Or, you know what, you could hold for 2 weeks. At the end of the day, if it's 2 weeks Hughes definitely is a great player to have available through Origin because he's a Kiwi. He won't be in contention to play Origin football. And he's a really big part of what the Storm do. So we've seen in games where Hughes has been in and Munster's been out, we've seen Hughes really step up, especially through the Origin period last year and the year before. So could be a decent shout there. But I haven't really given you a direct answer, but it all depends on how many trades you have left, Bray. So hop in my DMs, man, if you want to have a chat about that one a little bit more. Corey A, 88. Would you skip on David Armstrong and go to Dom Young or Greg Marju? Current team value is 13.5 million roughly and have 450K in the bank. So when you see your team value, it doesn't actually count how much money you have in the bank you haven't spent on players. So, we're sitting here, if we do 13.5 and 450, we're sitting at around the 14 million mark in total, which is a pretty good spot to be. I think everybody by round 10 probably should be above that or around that 14 million and above. So if you're under that, I'd probably be trying to chase a cheapie or two, and we've got some crackers coming up. Suafar Longo next week. We've got David Armstrong this week. We've got KO Weeks next week. So there's cash coming from multiple directions at the moment. So we're not short on cash cows. Now, if this means that you want to skip on Armstrong, Corey, and you can get Dom Young and you have that cash there, I mean, maybe the downgrade next week could be like a Roger Tuivasa-Sheck when he comes into a pretty tough run. It could be straight down to Suafar Longo, bank 200K, and there's the money that you needed to make. Suafar Longo, I guess the only downside is that Suafar Longo has probably 5 more weeks in this team before Pappenhausen is back in this team. Look, Suafar Longo could be good enough to be able to play at center or play as a utility or whatever, but that's probably where his cash generation ends there. So David Armstrong's the longer term play. He will be it looks like he's locked down that fullback spot until Kalen Ponga comes back. So would I skip on Armstrong and get Dom Young? Just depends on your center wing structure, really. Like how many center wing primos do you have? If you've got less than 4, and that's including Kaoliro, if you've got less than 4 really reliable center wing options, I'd probably look at getting Dom Young. I don't know whether I'd like going this early on Marju. I think I want to see a little bit more from Greg Marju first before I jump on him. I just haven't seen that base up yet, and we haven't seen the attack go to his side that much. So Dom Young is definitely my pick here. If you are fine on your cash gen, and your team value is good, which it looks like it is. It looks like it's on track, and you really want to attack points this week. Just be wary that there's going to be rain around for this Roosters game, so maybe the ball won't spread or shift as much. I'm picking up Armstrong for transparency, just so everyone's aware of what I'm doing. I'll be getting Armstrong. I'm upgrading Salmon or Chan, one of the two. I haven't decided yet, but I'll be upgrading one of those two, or downgrading, to Armstrong to free up cash, because I'll be probably boosting next week and making some pretty big upgrades there, centered around like your Fullers, and then probably try and get another gun center wing in my team, or even upgrade my 5'8" next week too. Second solution, Far Longo or Armstrong. I kind of just answered that one, didn't I? I'd probably pick Armstrong this week, Far Longo next week. That's the play. But if you're worried and you can only pick one and you can't pick both over the next fortnight, I think Far Longo is going to score more points than Armstrong will in the same period of time. So over the next 5 weeks, I think Far Longo outscores Armstrong. And in that period, I think there's every chance that Suafar Longo probably makes the same amount of cash, maybe a little bit more. But just the benefit of having Armstrong and also the Knights draw through the middle of the season, through that Origin period, is actually really nice. I think they only miss 1 or 2 games max over the next 3 months. So really good for buy structure and for Origin scheduling. So all depends, and it's a pretty tough, but it's a good question. Far Longo for points, Armstrong probably for cash gen long term. Next one, will I boss the best centre wing buy this week? Dom Young I'm pretty confident in saying. I know a lot of people are going to Jermaine Isaako, which I also can't argue with. It's not a bad trade at all. I think it's a good move. But I think Dom Young, in terms of value for money, and I guess that's probably what people want most, right? When you're looking at your team, you want value for money. You want to get the cheapest and best player as possible. And Dom Young has definitely bottomed out. I think he's 550K now. So when you're looking at a 550K player that could average 75 to 80 over the next 2 months, and with the Roosters schedule through Origin, in comparison, look, we're looking at Isaako. He still misses 2 games. So just because he plays those major buys, my thing with this is he's available for the major buys. All the Dolphins players are, which is great. They're the only team that can play 13, 16, and 19. So fantastic. but they still miss 14 and 18 when you've got to field 17 full squad, 17 players. So that's the downside there. Whereas it's best 13 during the major buys, and most people should be able to get close to covering that really without having to stress too much about getting so many Dolphins into my team because they've got such an amazing schedule. For the most part, most players have the same availability through the next 8-9 weeks. 11 weeks over that Origin period. Most players only miss 2 games unless you're playing Origin. So it's just about how it's structured. And I think I would rather get players in that I can cover the 14, 15, 17, 18, and 20 period, because they're the awkward ones where you've still got to field a full squad. You don't get a handicap. So Dom Young, to answer your question. Now, Brent's got a few back-to-back here. Excuse me. The first one is Terrell May a sell again. The Roosters bench, it looks awful for his chances of getting any decent minutes. And look, I do agree. The bench looks terrible. I'm just trying to bring the game up very quickly because, Spencer Leniu, first of all, he's back. Now, that's going to play a pretty big impact, a pretty big part on Terrell May's minutes. Connor Watson has also moved to the bench, probably as hooker cover more so than anything, but he can also play in the middle. So he's very versatile. Brandon Smith has been named. So the bench is Connor Watson, Naf White, who can play on an edge and in the middle. Then Spencer Leniu, who's a middle, and Terrell May, who's a middle. Victor Radley is back in this team in the 13 jersey. There's every chance he probably plays 70-plus minutes. Nat Butcher's a big edge, but can also rotate into the middle. Angus Crichton, he'll play 80 on an edge. Where are the minutes for Terrell May? And that's my concern. I think, look, do we have to move him on this week? No. Not this week, because he's got a 17 break even. It doesn't make sense to trade him now. We can probably just kind of hold, and this can be a future problem in a week or two. And also, Terrell May has a really good buy schedule. I've mentioned the Roosters a number of times and how good their schedule is through the Origin period. So he could ideally be a front row forward 3 if you can make that happen. Would I play him this week? Oh, look, it probably pitchforks out for me this week. I reckon we're looking at a sub 30 score from Terrell May again in this one. Trent Robinson's shown that he's just going to ride the hot hand for the most part. The best middle is going to keep playing minutes. Spencer Leniu played 40 minutes in the first game in Vegas before he got suspended. So there's a propensity there for him to lean into Leniu, because they were saying in the preseason, Spencer Leniu was a guy that they wanted to get more minutes into. So yeah, it's not ideal, is it? I reckon Terrell May is probably just a hold as a front row forward 3, but I'd be trying to maybe upgrade a Sam Hughes, or even not Sam Hughes because he covers 13. If you've got a Liam Henry there, I'd probably be trying to get a playable front row forward 2 out of Liam Henry as an upgrade pretty soon, so you don't have to rely on playing Terrell May all the time. You can just play him when the bench looks a little bit thin. So yeah, that's probably how I'd play it. So do I think he's a sell as a front row forward 2? And if you can't make that work any other way, yeah, probably. I probably wouldn't play him this week. Brent also asked, who would you rank as your top 8 centre wings by season's end? And I didn't prepare for this, but let's just see how we go and see if the app wants to be helpful. And obviously, I won't take into consideration draw or anything like that from here. It's basically just who I think will be the top 8 centre wings. Maybe we'll make it top 7, because you can't buy 8 of them. You can only get 7. So let's just do top 7. I think at the moment, we've got Joey Manu and Val Holmes at 1 and 2. So I do agree. I think this, not in any order, by the way, I'm just going down the list. Manu will definitely be a top 7 centre wing, just due to the fact that his average is going to get bumped up through the Origin period when inevitably Tedesco gets named at fullback. If he doesn't, we'll reassess. Val Holmes, definitely top 8 or top 7 centre wing. Zach Lomax and Jermaine Isaako, Ronnie Mulatalo and Garrick, they're currently 3rd to 6th at the moment, those 4 guys. If I'm completely honest, without Braden Trindle, it looks like Ronaldo Mulatalo is struggling a little bit. Does he stay in the top 7? Probably not, to be honest. I think maybe we see Ronaldo drop out of this. I think Lomax stays there, especially if he stays on the wing. I think Jermaine Isaako stays there just purely because he's got the goal kicking. I think Ruben Garrick stays there because he's got the goal kicking, and Manly are playing some pretty attacking footy at the moment. They're definitely going right more than they're going left, which is quite rare for a turbo team. So, I think you've got 5 there of your top 8. Then I'm looking down this list. RTS won't be a top 8 centre wing. AJ Brimson, as good as he's been, he needs to be at fullback for the season for me to consider that. If he goes to 5'8", I'm probably not a fan. Karaz, no. Brian To'o, I feel like will still be I think they've got to start going left eventually, these guys. Like, they've gone right all year. And Brian Toto is too good to not be a top 8 centre wing. So I feel like he's going to come good at some point. And then I'm just going down the rest of this list. There's no real smokies for me. I mean, look, if we're talking season average, maybe Dane Gagai with the goal kicking over this next 8 to 10 week period might prop up. I think Dane Gagai could be probably a top 8 centre wing by season's end, which maybe that's a little bit spicy. Maybe it's not. And maybe Dom Young could be a top 8 centre wing. So there's your 8 from me. I'd probably say those are the guys that I really like. I'm not sure who I've missed. I was just going down this list in order of total points. So you can crucify me if you want, but I think those would be my top 8. So Manu, Holmes, Lomax, Isaako, Garrick, and then Brian Toto. I think he comes good. He's got to. And then who else did I say? Dane Gagai and Dom Young. I think I think that's probably my top 8. Next question, Isaako or Dom Young this week? It's a pretty good question to follow on from that. Dom Young for me. I think the reason being, I spoke about it earlier, but it's value for money. Dom Young's 550K with he's a -4 break even or something like that. So he's still going to make money, but also has a nice draw. Isaako, nice draw, but he's 200K more expensive. We've also seen periods this year where there is every chance that Herbie goes back to right centre and we see Isaako starved of the ball again because Herbie Farnworth has glue hands. So yeah, look, we've seen periods where Isaako didn't score as well this year, and I feel like maybe we'll regress to that point eventually when Herbie ends up back at right centre, if that ends up happening. But yeah, I think Dom Young this week is the buy purely because he saved 200K. And Isaako will come back down at some point. He's bound to. He's, I reckon, got maybe 2 more weeks of cash gen and he'll start coming back down. So you might be able to grab him around like that round 16 kind of second major buy, and you might be able to even get him cheaper if he has a couple of quiet games. Brent's got another one. Thinking about going SJ to Sam Walker this week. Spoken about this a fair bit. Until I want Cleary out. Running out of trades and worried about SJ's Achilles and his draw. Now, if you're running out of trades, I guess I said last time, I probably wouldn't be making too many more kind of trades where I'd have to go to Walker then to Cleary. You're booking 2 trades already. And if you're running out of them, if you're running out of trades, I think you just need to get Cleary and just hope that he starts backing up and doesn't get injured again, if I'm completely honest. Sam Walker, yeah, I like the pick if you're going to go in that direction, but I think you either need to hold SJ and just hold on for dear life, or you just need to get to Cleary, wipe your hands with it, and just not worry about halfback for the rest of the year. Fingers crossed. That's probably my advice. And the most important question of the podcast tonight, do I keep tomato sauce in the fridge or the pantry? I am a sauce in the fridge guy. I do like it a little bit colder. So yeah, I'm a sauce in the fridge guy. I mean, look, I'm not opposed to it. My mum used to keep her sauce in the pantry, so I grew up as a pantry sauce person, and now my wife keeps her sauce in the fridge. So yeah, I mean, very important question. I'm not really fussed either way, but at the moment I'm a fridge sauce guy. So hopefully that answers your question, Brent. Shorty, another very important question. Do you butter both sides of the bread when making a toasty? I mean, if you don't, you're doing it wrong, aren't you? Like, you've got to get the butter on both sides so that it kind of get that really nice crispy brown kind of toasty. That's what I'm all about, and I think that's important. So if you're not buttering both sides of the bread when you're doing a toasty, you're doing it wrong. Simple as that. Back to Supercoach. Cracker90 wants to know, who would you bring in for Pappenhausen? Would it be Drinky or Teddy? Or should I wait a week and trade Tamari Martin to Nickera this week instead? Look, I think Pappenhausen owners, and I think Josh is doing this, the Supercoach Whisperer. We've been talking a bit about his trades this week, and he's holding Pappenhausen for this week and trying to go Pappy to Drinky next week and hoping Drinky drops in cash. Now, there's every chance Drinky covers his break even against the Titans this week. They concede the most tries to fullbacks, so I can really see Drinky having a big game here and in the final game of the round against the Titans, who leak a fuckload of points. And he's kind of playing as a bit of a 5'8" too, isn't he, in attack? So I do like Drinky this week. I'd probably do Pappy to Drinky. That'd be my pick. Tamari Martin's got a 50-odd break even. I'm trying to get him out of my team pretty much ASAP, but I might come to the conclusion here that he's not really going to hurt me. The Warriors are playing the Roosters, and the Roosters concede the 4th most points to 5'8" this year. So is it going to hurt me if I don't get Tamari Martin out of my team? Probably not, so I would probably go with Pappy to Drinky this week and probably even chuck the captaincy on him, if I'm completely honest. That's where I'm thinking with it. Edge, if you had to buy a 5'8" this week, would you pick Dylan Brown or Cody Walker? Now, Funny because I've been looking at Cody Walker pretty closely. For anybody who tuned in on Tuesday night, you would have known that. Cody Walker's been on my mind a little bit, and he has bottomed out. Latrell's back. AJ's in the extended bench, and I think there's every chance AJ might play this weekend. So you've got that kind of that left edge, and Jack White in there too. You've got that left edge now back. So yeah, for me, I think I know that obviously Jack Whiten's going to be playing 5'8" or halfback or whatever. Actually, no, he's not. They've got that young fella debuting, so that's even better. So if you've got that edge, that left edge of Cody Walker, Latrell sweeping. I know he doesn't do it much, but he does do it sometimes when they're close to the line, especially. And you've got AJ on the wing and Jack Whiten as well. I'll tell you what, that is probably one of the more lethal combinations or edges in the competition. So yeah, Cody Walker, very tempting, but common sense prevails here. I think you've just got to pick up Dylan Brown. The only downside is I think they play the Penrith Panthers and the Broncos in the next 2 games after this week, which just isn't great at all for Brown, but his base is good enough to be able to cover. My preference is Dylan Brown's a pickup in round 12 because his draw really softens up then from round 12 or round 13, I think it is. So I'd probably wait on Dylan Brown, but if you needed to pick a 5'8" this week, I still think he's the play. I think he's a guy that you can just plug as your 5'8" all year. My name is DVG, Dave, winner of NBL Supercoach. What piece do you think is more important for the next 6 rounds, Isaako or Drinkwater? Next 6 rounds, tough. Let's break down the draw very quickly. So next 6 rounds, we're looking at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right. So I better move his question off the board very quickly. All right. So Drinkwater, Cowboys from round 10. They've got Titans this week away, which is a nice matchup. They've got Souths, which again now is a nice matchup. Then they've got the Tigers. So the Cowboys next 3 weeks are absolutely golden. Then we look into 13, 14, and 15. So they do cover the major buys. You're looking at all 6 games here. They've got the Roosters away, but it's round 13, no Tedesco. So that's definitely a positive for them. Then you've got New Zealand Warriors. They haven't exactly been playing their best footy in round 14. So, and then they've got the Canberra Raiders, who are definitely looking young and injured and beaten up. So, for me, Drinky has one of the better runs leading up to the second major bye. And then who was the second part of the question? Isaako. So if we look at the Dolphins draw, they've got Manly this week, who they leak points. They've got the Tigers, then they've got New Zealand, who haven't been playing great footy, like I mentioned. So not too bad. Then they've got the Raiders, the bye, the Sharks. So at the moment, if we just do the pure math over the next 6 weeks, Drinkwater plays one more game than Isaako will. And Drinkwater, I'd probably say, has a better draw than Isaako does. So if you're asking me who the better piece is, I think the question was, if I can try and find it again. Yeah, what piece do you think is more important for the next 6 rounds, Isaako or Drinky? I think it's Drinky purely because he plays one more game, and I think he has a better draw. So that's where I sit on that one. All right. Sloan Ranger, is Pappy to Garrick a bad move? I have 821k to spend. The idea would be to push Garrick up to centre wing at some point. So we're using Garrick at fullback here for this one. Is it a bad move? No, I don't think it's a bad move. I mean, Garrick's last week to pick him up is this week, and he has a nice matchup. So I think there's every chance that Garrick scores well again this week. I've probably got the VC on him at this point in time. So this is the last week to get him. He's going to definitely rise in a fair amount of cash. If he scores, I think 70 or 80, he goes up another 100k. And then he becomes out of reach, and there's no point because then he plays the Panthers. I think they've got a couple of tough games into a bye. So not ideal after that. And I'm assuming that's why Sloan Rangers is asking the question. Is it a bad move because of the draw from here on in? This week's still nice, though. And I think, look, Garrick's a season-long hold. So, which is why we've been pushing him as a trade, regardless of the fact the draw gets tough. They're still a good team, mind you. So they can compete still with Penrith, with the Broncos, with the Melbourne Storm. Excuse me. So he definitely, I wouldn't call it a bad move getting Garrick. I think he's still a fine trade. But I'm guessing there's a lot of comparison around Jermaine Isaako at the moment, and whether it's Jermaine Isaako or Ruben Garrick this week. And I'd probably argue that if you wanted to get one, it'd be Isaako over Garrick. Just purely because, they've probably got a friendlier draw leading up, and they also play round 13, which is probably going to be a tricky round to fill. H said Parker, best fullback option for under 780k. Have Drinky, Teddy, Brimson, Chance, and Latrell available. Latrell's an interesting one I haven't spoken about yet, but if you like, if you've got a risky appetite and you like take a little bit of a punt and you like a pod, I think Latrell's got a point to prove. We said this at the start of the season. It didn't really come off, but I mean, if you throw enough shit at the wall, surely something sticks, right? I think he's had some time off. He's had some time to reflect. He said that he probably wants to focus on club footy and doesn't want to play Origin. So we're going to have that availability through Origin. I would probably be looking at Drinky because I've spoken about him, and I'm not going to repeat myself on why I'd pick Drinky, but Latrell's an interesting one as well. Or second part of the question, would you run Iro as fullback 2 and go in for a gun centre wing, which I also don't mind. I'd probably still pick Drinky though, just for the fact that I mentioned it a few times. The draw's nice. Doesn't miss a game until round 16. So yeah, I'm picking Drinky there. Jacko, second last question here. Is it okay for now to have Iro as your second fullback if you want to go Pappy to a gun centre wing? And yeah, like I mentioned, I think it is. Even last year, everyone's talking about fullback being this premium position, this gun position where you have to have 2 guns. But then we went away from that last year and we picked Jareem Buller, and it was genius. And he made us 400K or 350K. And then you moved him on back to a gun fullback for the run home. At the moment, if we filter fullbacks, there is not one fullback that averages. There's only one fullback averaging above 80 this season, and that's Dylan Edwards, 93.3. He's had a fucking cracker of a year, hasn't he? Then you've got Turbo, Drinky, Ruben Garrick, Teddy, Pappy, all in the 70s. So if we go the centre wing now, and we have a look and we filter by average in centre wing, of players, obviously, that have played enough. You've got Joey Manu averaging an 82. You've got Isaako averaging 80.5. You've got Val Holmes averaging 80. So at the moment, aside from Dylan Edwards, centre wing is actually performing better based on averages than fullback is at the moment. Then, mind you, Ronaldo Mulatalo, Lomax, Garrick, and then you've got Sivo in there somehow. He's only played 3 games, so it's hard to count. You've got another guy, 3 guys averaging 70. So at the moment, you've got more players averaging 80 or over 70 to 80 in the centre wing than you do at fullback. So I guess the whole you need double gun fullbacks, maybe we're starting to lean away from that. So I don't mind Iro coming down or another fullback or a Meany or Garrick, whoever it ends up being, for you to load up and attack these really good fixtures over the next 3 weeks, especially like Val Holmes. The Cowboys have an amazing schedule over the next 3 weeks. You've also got Dom Young, and the Roosters have an amazing schedule over the next probably 9 to 10 weeks. So yeah, Isaako as well. We've talked about him enough. We've talked about Garrick. These guys, like, people are loading up their centre wing this year because you've got 7 spots. Why not attack 3, 4, 5 primos in that position? And if you have to sacrifice a fullback primo for 1, 2, 3 weeks, and you can shuffle them back around when you need to, then I don't mind that this year. Last one, Melmo. This is a specific trade question. We've got Bostock, Pappenhausen, and Sean Lane to Dom Young, Armstrong, and Fafita. So 2 upgrades and a downgrade, I'm assuming there with that one. Or should you just go Bostock and Pappy to Isaako and Dom Young, and could also boost Schiller out to Armstrong there to free up some cash too if we wanted. I would honestly, with it being so close to Origin, I'm not huge on getting Fafita at the moment. He misses 13, 16, and 17, so he's going to miss 3 games in a very short period of time. So that's not ideal through the middle of the year as an Origin player. So I'm probably looking at going Bostock and Pappy and even Schiller to Isaako, Young, and Armstrong. I really don't mind that part B there, Melmo, for that trade. And I also think you don't really need to trade Sean Lane. I mean, he's fine. I mean, he's not amazing. He's not Sean Lane of 2022, but he's still not going to hurt you too much. He's not going to be an AE nightmare. So I think you could probably look at, fading Fafita, I guess, in this instance, and really targeting those guys that are topping out and scoring really well in Isaako and Young, and get Armstrong in for the cash. That's probably where I would play it. And I've somehow managed to get through 22 questions in 40 minutes. So thanks for bearing with me, and thanks to all of our Insight Unlimited members for throwing those questions in. Hopefully I've been able to answer or give you some insight into all of those. Like I mentioned at the start of the podcast, guys, if you do want to become an Insight Unlimited member, all you need to do is hop in my DMs and hop in the free Discord. You see all of the information in there that you need to become an Insight Unlimited member, $25 for the full year. Otherwise, jump in the free Discord anyway. We've got an awesome community in there. It doesn't cost a thing. Come and have a chat about your trades, get some advice from the rest of the community in there. And also, it's not just an NRL podcast here at Insight Fantasy Sports. We do AFL, we do NBL and BBL Supercoach. So all 4 Supercoach sports. We've got the Supercoach World Cup happening at the moment. And also we do NBA Fantasy. Matty G, Skiddy, and the team over at Insight NBA do a cracker job for near on 9 months a year. talking waiver ads and talking NBA fantasy drafts and all things NBA. So if you're a basketball fan, you're definitely in the right place with us here. And we have a very exciting new addition to the Insight Fantasy Sports team coming very soon as well. So stay tuned for that. But guys, that'll do me. It's enough talking from me. Hopefully some green arrows for everybody this week. End up climbing the rankings and winning your head-to-heads. We'll see you on Sunday for the wrap-up. Matrix will be back for that one. So until then, you've been listening to another Insight NRL show. Catch you later.